Okay. Hello.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come and sit with us. Come as you are. It is time. It is time to tell her story, to tell the story of her body. It is time to tell her embodied story. We women carry our stories in our bodies, and her story is our story. Yeah. Kate, would you take us to our bodies so we can feel
Yeah.
how
That
we
feels
are?
like it feels like a prayer.
Mm.
That feels like a prayer and a real invitation. Yeah, to come into our bodies. So yeah, we'll just take a moment, right? Take some breaths here, in through the nose and out through our mouths. And however we're sitting or lying, maybe we can feel our feet on the ground, supported by the earth, or maybe we can just sense into our feet and bringing our awareness further up into our ankles, sensing into our legs, sensing into our bums, our sitting bones, our pelvis, base of our spines, breathing. Moving our awareness up our spines and the muscles either side, sensing into our shoulder blades. Maybe we can feel our backs imprinting on the backs of our chairs, maybe lying on our beds. Feeling into our shoulders, sensing into our arms, our lower arms, our hands, into our fingers. Taking a breath, sensing into our belly centers, moving our awareness up into our solar plexus, into our chest, into our heart centers. And then sensing into our throats, into our faces. Our faces, where we hold so much tension, sensing into our faces, into our foreheads, our crown, the crown of our skull, the back of our skulls, into our ears. And if our eyes are closed, gently opening our eyes with a soft gaze and seeing through our eyes, bringing ourselves back into the room. Just noticing what's present in us as we give ourselves this time and this space to really acknowledge and explore, right? And play with ourselves, with each other, with our stories. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes me think also about bringing a little bit of movement, because when I bring a little bit of movement into my body just now, it makes me feel my body even more.
Yeah. Nice.
Thank you. As you grounded us into our bodies, I sort of want to take us to the moon.
Let's go.
Yeah, because actually the timing of our meetings is inspired by the moon and her cyclical nature. As we know, the moon, we have today, actually, we have a new moon in Cancer. And as she travels to the full moon, we've got this whole cycle, and the cycle resembles our menstrual cycle. So we are these cyclical creatures as the moon. And as we pay attention to the moon and to the energy she's bringing, we can really let her support our feminine process. Because, for example, now with the moon in Cancer, she really invites us to explore the themes of feeling at home. And it can be our home environment, that the people we surround ourselves with, the home we create for ourselves, but also our internal home, the space within us, and the feeling at home and the feeling of safety. And most importantly, the feeling of love, and how we can love ourselves, how we can create this loving environment for connecting to ourselves, and from the place of connection, then connecting with other people. Right? And the moon in Cancer is a very feminine, she's at home in Cancer. This is her place. That she's more familiar and most comfortable in. And she's supported by the Leo, as Mars and Venus are conjunct. There will be in a couple of days, but they're already very close on the sky together. And they are even further inviting us to deepen this exploration of love in our life. The masculine Mars and feminine Venus, they coming together, and we could look at this as a new beginning of exploration in our relationships with others. But as many of us know, we have this feminine and masculine within us. And the more we connect with ourselves, the more we can let these energies support each other, right? So the feminine flowing Cancer may sometimes feel a little bit over emotional, and then the Leo, as the Mars comes in, can really bring the support and let the feminine emotional flowing energy inspire and inform the action of the Leo, of the feminine, of the masculine energy, and take us into the world. So, and having said that, I'm thinking about how we beginning these stories, this exploration of her embodied stories. And the first story we want to explore is the love story, right? But there won't be any princesses and princes and the knights in shining armors. However, there could be the inner masculine and the inner feminine coming together, right? But they are of different energy. They are of the energy of depth, of our depth. So in this series that we are embarking on, and we're inviting you to join us and to explore with us, we will explore just that. How do I love myself? How do I do that? You know, we're being told by the society, by all these psychological, spiritual circles, you need to start with loving yourself, have compassion, have love for yourself. But how do we actually do that?
Yeah,
right?
What does it mean?
What does that mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, for me, as you're speaking, to love myself, what that means is to be, you know, you talk about these natural cyclical rhythms in nature, right? That we also embody as women in our menstrual cycles. And also in our lunar cycles when we come into menopause as well, right? So for me, self-love means to be really attuned with how these rhythms and cycles are present in my own body. How these cycles and rhythms also allow me to really feel into my body so that I can sense and know what it is that I need any given moment and what I need to do in order to move out into my environment, into the world, to get what I need, in order to nourish myself, in order to satiate, to satisfy myself. So for me, this is what it means to really love myself, to support myself, to care for myself in this embodied, connected way. Because also, you know, we're talking about connecting with ourselves and connecting with others, also really connecting with our environments, with nature, with Mother Earth. To be so connected and attuned and aligned. This is really what comes up for me as you're speaking.
And as you're speaking, I'm thinking about how to love myself. To love, it's a verb. So it sort of invites us to active participation, active, dedicated, committed, right? Daily process of building this trust, this getting to know myself, listening to this intuitive voice that sometimes gets so muted, or the noise of the background and it's just sometimes so hard to reach. But this daily coming back to yourself, to myself, and I guess I'll join you with this personal experience of sharing. I guess it's the moments when I struggle the most, when I'm afraid, or when I feel I want to take some risk, and can be relational risk of speaking from truth, or saying no when I want to say no, or and in these moments it would be so easy to distract myself, to to just start doing something, but to actually stay with this sense of vulnerable, almost like this little something small in me that is shaking a bit, that is feeling really vulnerable. And by just really almost like scooping it and holding it in this gentle embrace, and really seeing, this is me too, not just the one that can do things, that is doing well, but especially at those moments when I'd rather hide and hide this part from anyone else, right? But just really staying with that. That's what's coming up now.
Lovely, very tender and strong as well, both things. Strength, having the strength and the courage to stay with that tenderness and the vulnerability.
And as you're saying that, it makes me think about this, what we said about the feminine Cancer and then the Leo, right? The supporting, that there is this dialogue and really building this trust within ourselves, moment by moment. That's what these little actions, they build this sort of sense of loving myself as a more continuous presence.
And a continuing presence and practice, right? As you're saying, that commitment in those actions daily. The practice. of that.
And you know, we are born, it's like we could say it's your birthright. You come from love. If we think of spirituality, we come from this oneness, from all is love, right? And it may sound a little bit abstract, and yet on some level everyone will recognize it in some way, that there is some truth in it. And yet something happens through our childhood conditioning, the air we breathe in, the beliefs we are surrounded by, the attitudes we encounter, right? That something happens that many of us don't really know how do I love myself, right? And that makes me think, what gets in the way? What happens that we have to learn to love ourselves? That is not a given.
Yeah.
Right?
We have to relearn, right? Relearning how to love ourselves, reclaiming our birthright, as you're saying. We love to love ourselves. So this is partly our intention, right? In beginning to offer these circles, offer this exploration of Herstory, beginning to find out what gets in the way of us being able to fully love ourselves, right? And connect with ourselves in this tender, loving, courageous way. Yeah. So I have a story that I'm going to read, that I've written, that gives a bit more insight into these interruptions, right? What gets in the way for us. So we live in a patriarchal society, and have done for thousands of years, in which, as the saying goes, to love ourselves has become a radical act. Women have been denigrated, have been killed, raped, undermined, taught that we are the wrong shape, the wrong race, the wrong gender, that our bodies are weak, that our bodies need to be cleaned up, tidied up, shaved, douched, sanitized, that we are less than, yeah, in relation to men in most industries, in most areas of life. So this patriarchal imprint runs so deeply within us all. You know, it's the water that we all have been swimming in and continue to swim in. But once upon a time, her story was a different story. We lived in a matriarchal society where women were revered and where the goddess was held in reverence. The goddess was perceived to be an organizing principle of the universe, the life force that animated all of existence. And then the goddess cultures began to decline, and it was a brutal and violent decline, which continued for centuries. So now in this coming to this present day, we find ourselves as women still fiercely impacted and organized by this system. However, it is not only an external system, but one we have come to internalize for centuries, right? For generations. So a crucial part of this journey of coming to love ourselves deeply, intimately, fiercely, is in exploring how this old patriarchal colonial narrative still lives in us today, how we still embody this. Yeah, how this story has come to inform what my inner critic tells me is okay. It's okay to be, it's not okay to be, it's okay to do, not okay to do. And so the next part in this story is exploring our inner critics. I use superego and inner critic interchangeably, right? And exploring how this construct, this super ego, powerfully and unconsciously organizes our lives. Yeah, so just as you were saying, Milena, noticing often when you're on the verge of experiencing something new, doing something new and unfamiliar, something out of your comfort zone, something maybe you've wanted to do for a long time, right? And finally got the courage to do it, boom, face to face, our inner critic, right? So it tells us, how dare you? Who do you think you are? Get back in your box, right? But it's not always that explicit, as we know. It can also be a trickster. It can also be very subtle. But the movement in our soul, as you've been speaking to, and in our consciousness, is to expand, to grow, to evolve. And the movement of our inner critic is to keep the status quo, to keep us safe, to keep us maybe small, keep us back. And so we want to get to know our inner critics, our super egos, intimately. We want to get to know how they show up, how they feel in our bodies when they show up, and what they say. And I say they because we have many, many different super egos. Yeah, it can latch onto everything, every area. So this is the work that we are going to be really exploring together. Yeah.
And it's quite a piece of work, isn't it?
It's huge, right? It's huge. And really, it's a lifetime's work. So deep.
It's like layer after layer and layer upon a layer, because that's how we've been conditioned, right? It's not just our parents, it's the whole societal, everything around us. It's loaded with messages that, especially as children, they go straight to our bodies, right? And then it may not be, as you said, the super ego may not be speaking directly to you. You did this, or you did that, or you don't do that because something will happen. But it may tell you, oh, haven't you put on a pound recently? Oh, look, there's a wrinkle on your face.
Yeah, and you know what, even a subtler, I was noticing this morning for myself in us preparing to speak together, my super ego comes under the guise of self-support and care, goes, oh, you're too tired. Look after yourself. You don't want to overstretch yourself. Don't do too much, darling. Come on. You could
do it next month.
You could do it next month. You know, your blood, your moon's due. It's a new moon. Just relax.
Take it easy.
Take it easy. Don't do it. Sounds so nice and loving, but when you know its function and its intention to keep you small, to keep me small, to keep me back, to keep me in the background, hidden, then we can spot it and go, okay, I know what this is about. And I choose to do something differently in the spirit of really loving myself. Yeah. In a new way.
And as you're saying that, I'm reminded of this experience of in a state of, oh, I'm not 100%. I'd rather, go on the bed and sort of put a blanket over myself. There is this, and can I show up exactly as I am?
Yes.
And still hold myself, right? And trust that, you know what? Come as you are, right? This is me now.
Yeah.
How I am now. And yeah, you don't, and it isn't even, can you love me? No, I love myself like this, right?
Just as I am. In this moment.
Here I am.
Right on. Yeah.
And it's a journey, right? It's a journey, and it's not an easy journey. It's a journey through inferno sometimes, the
Yeah.
fires and the dark and the pain and the history of like her story, right, that you've just shared with us. This is a living story. It lives in our cells. This is the women before us. Then we have women around us that we've been so divided from each other by all these societal,
Constraint.
patriarchal, right, systems in place, and so they're around us, and there are our daughters. So there's this lineage of women, and yeah, our story.
Yeah.
And I sort of, from this place, I feel like I want to invite us to our bodies, because that's how we carry the story, right, as we've already said. And as the moon in Cancer she supports us in so many different ways, but one way she supports our bodies, and where she opens this potential is to go to our chest, our heart, our breasts, and our bellies, and to really, well, really to check in first. Because it's not about making us feel something. I cannot make myself feel something. We need to really start where we at. Come as you are, and really let yourself feel your body as you are. And this may be so triggering for many of us, because we're touching our bellies, we're touching our breasts, and these areas of our bodies have been so loaded with expectations of how they should be, how tight or big or small, or oh my goodness, right? There's such a burden. And here you are, and here we are. What do you meet when you meet yourself?
What do we
Reality. So with a small interruption, life is full of them. Let's just see, yeah, what's coming up for you. And whatever is coming up, it might be difficult, or it might be blissful, right? It might be, I don't know, anything. But what if whatever's coming up, if you could scoop or embrace, or however, whatever gesture works for you, just create some holding space, holding gesture of just acknowledging the truth, because this is the only place we can start from, the only place we can start building this trusting, loving relationship with ourselves.
Yeah, from the truth of our experience.
Mm.
Oh,
Mm.
wow. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we're going to close here, right? And gratitude. Just really thank you for all that you bring, and I thank all of our support, both seen and unseen, you know, for
Yes.
this circle. And thank you to all who are listening. And we hope and we invite you to come and listen and sit with us again. And this is the work that we are really creating and expanding into. And we will be offering more.
Yes. And come as you are.
Come as you are.
Mm.
That's the invitation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kate. Pleasure.